You all mentioned culture, and Eli, I think you were the one who talked about whether people want the food. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple questions in here about advertising and media and the way that it really emphasizes the types of foods that are not particularly healthy, and zucchini doesn't have its own channel or commercial. So what would you all say about that when it comes to the influence of media?
I could.
There's no question that this is an enormous problem. There is no question that unhealthy foods are marketed much more often than healthy foods to children. And there is no question, the data is very clear, that most of those advertisements are focused on reaching low-income and vulnerable children who are also at the greatest risk of obesity and diabetes. There are two ways to address this from a policy perspective. One is to support fruit and vegetable vendors in creating their own marketing strategies. And for a host of reasons, that is very challenging, in particular because there is not just one farmer, thank goodness, of apples and broccoli. There are hundreds or thousands of farmers of apples and broccoli. And the other way to do this is to make policy decisions that restrict the ability of the unhealthy food marketers to reach particularly low-income and vulnerable children. I will say that not only do we know that that these advertisements exist, but we know that they are extraordinarily powerful. And I think the question just helps us to understand the complexity of the food system, and that even though we would like to boil this down to one issue like poverty or finances, really, in order to be successful in addressing food insecurity as a nation, we're going to have to chip away at a lot of different problems in our food system.
Yep, like taste the rainbow.
Yeah. Well, one way to illustrate this is when you go through the supermarket, look at where Tony the Tiger is. And is Tony the Tiger at your eye level or at your child's eye level? And chances are it's a little below your eye level. We looked at this in terms of policy-wise, how effective are government marketing campaigns? So 5 a day or Taste the Rainbow. And the trick, that's sort of a fight fire with fire approach. If there's lots of marketing from the junk food industry, let's just saturate the airwaves with marketing on fruits and vegetables. And whatever the reason, whether it's because we're not willing to put money from the federal government or the producers themselves can't band together and do it, the fire that the food industry has is so much larger, so much more pervasive, that it's an incredibly uphill battle and unlikely to succeed at the budget levels that we put towards it. That can be a little different when it comes to targeted things like Kick the Can or Soda-Free Summer, things that are targeted to this is maybe bad for you, don't drink it. There's some evidence that can have a lasting impact, but it's really difficult to fight fire with fire when it comes to marketing budgets if you're talking about a government versus the food industry. And so then I think the question does become, there's more of a policy case to be made that marketing to children is something that could be regulated as opposed to general marketing, which gets into free speech issues. And that marketing to children, should you be able to advertise sugary cereals during cartoons? Should we, for a city level, should at the zoo and museums that especially target children, should cities have the power to say, if you're on public property, you can't have any junk food here because we know it's really reaching children? There are things at the federal level and at the local level that are policy that could be regulation, but marketing's tough because the industry makes a lot of money, which gets back to what's subsidized and what's not, and what has a large profit margin and what doesn't.
Truly. My childhood would have been entirely different without Count Chocula and the Kix Rabbit. And Kid Vid from Burger King. Like, these were people to me growing up, And you laugh, and I think we laugh, but there's a real implication to the emotional connection I had as a child to sugary and fast food because of the advertisements.
I do think that advertisements are, there's no doubt that advertisements are very powerful, but, in our community, the phenomena is Takis, right? Like all the kids eat Takis, this weird kind of, chip thing. There aren't any advertisements for Takis on TV, but every single kid in our neighborhood eats them like they're going out of style in, big boxes. And if you don't, I think that, yes, there's work to be done in terms of policy with advertisements and possibly, creating this kind of, broccoli industry-sponsored advertisements, but culture, there's something to be said about culture change and about the influence of other people on people to make changes. One of the kids in our, we have a summer apprentice program that we run, and one of the kids in the summer apprentice program, she said, we have this annual camping trip we do every year, and we do this big talk out at the fire, and she was like, I think things would really change if it was like a norm, if you couldn't really get a date if you were known to have like bad eating habits, like, oh, he eats at McDonald's. Like, oh, he doesn't really take care of himself, Like, I kind of want somebody who like takes care of themselves and like, makes different choices and, and she was serious, she was like, if that was what was up and everyone had to keep up with the Joneses on how they took care of themselves and what choices they made, then things would change. And I say that to be kind of funny, but I think she did have a point. Like, there needs to be the culture makers, picking up on the memes that we want our kids to really get involved in and have that be the social pressures that are going on. It has to be matched, of course, with access, because if, there's that pressure there but nowhere to get the healthy alternative, then it's not going to work. The default solution still has to be a healthy solution in order for any marketing or any other cultural change to work. So like Hillary was saying, it's going to be a multiple approach, but I wouldn't underscore the power of person-to-person cultural change.
Absolutely.